I'm almost more excited for the Olympics to begin, not for the sport itself, but because you've been speaking about this every single day for nearly a year, and I'm excited for you.
I can hardly stay still in my chair.
You are that excited.
I would say that this is my Olympics, but this is my Olympics.
Excellent. Starting off with a dad joke. For people that perhaps aren't as excited as you or are more getting across the excitement day by day, let's start with the basics. How can anyone that's listening actually follow the Olympics from Australia?
So if you're a casual fan and you just want to have a touch point with the Olympics once a day where you can understand what's big, what's happening, what time you need to turn on the TV, who's winning medals. This is not me being biased, but I would sign up to the TDA Sport newsletter. We're going to be doing a special Olympics edition every day with all of those.
Every single day.
Yeah, with all of those key details. It's going to take a couple of minutes to read. We're also going to be doing 2 special afternoon editions of this podcast each week of the games to make sure that all our podcast listeners are up to speed as well. But for those with a bit more time and investment, perhaps passion for the Olympics, you're going to spend a lot of time on Channel 9. They've got the official broadcast rights of the game. They paid $305 million for the rights to Paris and then the next 2 Summer Olympics and 2 Winter Olympics. So that takes us to Brisbane and the Paralympics too in a separate deal. So 9 are going to broadcast the games on free-to-air TV and the coverage is going to be on their main channel and on 9Gem. And what that means is that if you don't have pay television or digital television,
which we have spoken about before on this podcast,
we have covered that, then your TV aerial will serve you just fine. But we also know that there's an increasing portion of Australians, particularly young Australians, who don't have a TV plugged into a TV aerial. Some don't even have traditional TVs. And that's where 9Now and Stan are going to come in for all of the digital streaming.
I'm really good at watching TV. I'm less good at staying up late, which I don't think will serve me well for these games. What are the times we're talking about with some of these Olympic events?
Well, this is like key primetime viewing. And by primetime, I mean probably the worst possible time for Australians to wake up. So the opening ceremony, for example, that's kicking off tonight. And by tonight, I mean early tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. Saturday morning. That is known in the sporting community as the single worst time to start an event because it's not like a 2 a.m. where then you can go to sleep after. It's not the 6 a.m.
You're awake and tired for the rest of the day.
It's pretty crap, but it's the Olympics.
Of course.
And if they can set new world records and everything, then we can get up and have a bit less sleep.
And so for those who are braving the 4 a.m. wake up tomorrow morning for the opening ceremony, what can they expect from that?
So you and Emma spoke this week about some of the more serious aspects, the security and the logistics. I'll focus on perhaps the more fun stuff.
You're here for the fun.
Yeah. So instead of...
Sam drops in once a week to deliver the daily fun.
Disney Dad. Instead of being held in a stadium, this ceremony is going to be taking place on the River Seine. And that's significant for 2 reasons. It's going to be the biggest live audience ever for an opening ceremony of an Olympics. They're expecting a few 100,000 people to line the banks of the river. And obviously you can't do that in a stadium because it doesn't have the capacity to do that. It's also the first time, though, the majority of spectators are going to be there for free. And they're going to see quite a spectacle. They're going to see a massive convoy of boats carrying athletes and performers down the river. And it's this 6-kilometre stretch that actually goes past landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and Notre Dame Cathedral.
I have vivid memories of the Spice Girls performing at the London opening ceremony.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're getting the Spice Girls again, but who knows?
Who knows?
What are we expecting from the opening ceremony performance?
One of the really cool parts of the Olympics is that we typically only find out who's the headline performer of the opening ceremony when they pop up. Normally in the middle of a stadium.
Absurd.
In this case, they're going to pop up on a boat. And there's always this crazy rumour game. So the lead rumours for who's going to perform is Celine Dion and Lady Gaga. They've both been spotted in Paris in the last few days.
I just watched Celine Dion's documentary.
Right.
Very well made.
So maybe she's doing a bit of a press tour.
Yeah, maybe.
Then we've also heard rumours about Aya Nakamura. She's the most streamed French singer in the world. Then there's some wild rumours about Taylor Swift, who has a mysterious gap in the Eras tour that fits just perfectly around an appearance at the opening ceremony. Nothing's going to quite hit Nikki Webster and Vanessa Amorosi, but I think this kind of combination, I might tip Celine Dion, they'll go okay.
Okay, so we're expecting a spectacle from that opening ceremony, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the first day. I want to move on to the actual games itself and Australia's medal hopes there. Are we expecting to do well as a country at this Olympic Games?
Well, there's some really high hopes on the Australian team, and that's kind of being driven by the Australian Olympic Committee itself, the organisation that represents the athletes, gets them ready for the Games. I did a podcast about how much money is being sunk into winning gold. I'll put it in the show notes, but the pressure is on. So in Tokyo, we finished 6th on the medal table. We won 17 golds. The pressure is on us to go better this year. Our best games in terms of the number of gold medals was Athens in 2004. That's where we won 17 golds and 16 silvers. And that just pipped Tokyo where it was 17 and 7 silvers.
I presume a large portion of those golds come from swimming, which we as a country are very good at doing, right?
It's almost the national sport at the moment. You know, there is such a presence of how good Australia is in international media. I was listening to a Washington Post Olympics preview this week, and they'd spend more time talking about the Australian swimmers than they did about the American swimmers. So there's the whole world's watching their swimmers. A lot of the kind of predictions of how we're going to go says that the swimmers will account for 60 to 70% of our medals. We've got Ariane Titmus trying to defend her 200 and 400 freestyle titles. Kaylee McEwen is a force to be reckoned with in backstroke. But I'm also excited about some of the young talent like Molly O'Callaghan and Sam Short.
One of my problems in watching the Olympics is that I deeply care about the swimming, and that once the swimming is over, I feel a bit lost.
Yes, the second half tumble, we call it.
What happens after the swimming? Where do we get our gold medals from after that?
Oh, mate, it's just beginning. So we've got the women's soccer team, the Matildas. You might be familiar with them. They're going to be looking to build on their success from last year's World Cup. They could get gold if things go well. The men's rugby sevens team is targeting gold. Jessica Fox is an amazing canoeist. She's targeting...
And she's our flag bearer.
She's our flag bearer tomorrow morning. She's targeting 2 gold medals in her events. And then I'm just going to go through the other medal hopes super quick because there are so many. We've got Grace Brown looking good in road cycling, Logan Martin in the BMX. He will defend his gold medal he won in Tokyo. And in the athletics, keep an eye on Nina Kennedy in the pole vault and Nicola Olisangers in the high jump. She won silver in Tokyo. Then we've got the Kookaburras, the Australian men's hockey team, and the Australian women's rugby sevens. They're both hot favourites in their competitions. And I have not even mentioned basketball, skateboarders, sailors, rowers, Alex de Minaur in the tennis, surfers, golfers, boxers, shooters, water poloers, weightlifters, equestrian, triathlon, diving, and beach volleyball. And I guarantee you, in that list, there'll be some surprises.
Okay, I think I get the picture. There's a lot, and you're not breathing.
I'll speak to you in 3 weeks.
But lots of excellent chances that Australia is up for any number of medals, and lots of excitement there. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is breaking, which I have learned is not breakdancing, it's breaking.
Yes, the cool kids are calling it breaking. This is a new sport at the Olympics. It's going to be awesome to watch. So the competitors are known as B-boys and B-girls, and they'll face off in these one-on-one dance battles, and they'll showcase their best moves. It kind of feels like a gymnastics floor routine in some ways, like the same level of athleticism and power is on display to really cool music, amazing costumes. I'm super excited to watch that. It's not the only thing that's changing though. We've got sport climbing, and that debuted in Tokyo, but that's now got 2 separate events, a combined category of bouldering, which I know is very popular as a pastime here in Australia, and lead. And there's also a speed climbing where you just have to get to the top as quick as you can. Then there's also kiteboarding and sailing, and a new variation in canoeing called kayak cross.
It's always interesting to understand this like modernization and trying to keep up with new sports as they arise, and certainly as they are considered Olympic events. But what I did find interesting is that breaking won't be included in the next games in LA. So they've introduced it in time for this, but then not again at the next games.
The selection of sports by the International Olympic Committee can be really political, and they're often thinking 4, 8, 12 years ahead. And sometimes what they'll do is introduce a sport and say it's a 1-year activity. That doesn't necessarily rule it out for the next one, where they can do a bit of back by popular demand.
Gotcha.
It kind of gives it room to be dropped off if it's not a success.
I now feel successfully caught up on everything I need to know ahead of the Olympics beginning. Thank you, Sam. And if you're looking for a cheat sheet to the Olympics every single day, sign up to our sport newsletter. As I mentioned on the podcast earlier this week, it is written by our team and just gives you everything you need to know about the Olympics and the rest of the sport in the world. We'll throw that link in today's show notes. Have a great weekend, watch the Olympics and go Australia.